All right, Shalom family. Peace, peace, peace. Come on in. Hopefully everybody's doing well. All right. Appreciate everybody's presence. Thanks for being on. May the words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart be acceptable in Yahweh's sight. He is our strength and our Redeemer, and it is in His name, which is His authority, that we pray, praise, proclaim, protect, and protect today's message. Amen. Hola, mi nombre es Kofi. ¿Cómo está? Bonjour, je m'appelle Kofi. Ça va? Ni hao, namaste. Osaya, Anakitabuya, Ohio. I see you. Kamsa, Kasamida, Manut, Wagwan, Aloha, Habarigani, Akwaba, Madaasi, Etisen, Jambo, Bimini Kofi Nina Franco, Katana Wewe, Boker To, Boker Ta, Grand Rising, Bakwaratav, Barakala Chem Yahava, Atnai, Kovai, Helet at Servants of Christ, Mashalam Chi. Hello, everybody. I'm Pastor Kofi, Pastor Servants of Christ, where we are always changing lives one mind at a time by being the voice of the voices and speaking the unspoken. Appreciate you all. So we thank you guys for being on again. Just being obedient. I apologize. I actually had some stuff off and needed to make sure that we take care of some family stuff. So we are on the road doing so. And prayerfully, everybody's having a great day, an awesome time. Thank you once again for being with us. And we appreciate you so very much. As you can see, since we are on the road, I will not be necessarily able to look in the chat but so much. Even though moderators, I still appreciate what you do and everything of that nature. So we're thankful and grateful to everybody for being on. And we appreciate you. And we're thankful to have each and every one of you on with us today. So we look forward to the word for the day. We'll say our Bible pledge real quick. This is my Bible. This is my sword. And this will I trust. For Yahshua is Lord. No sword of God shall ever be heard. For this is my Bible. And this is Yah's word. Hashem Yahweh. Amen. In Yahweh's name. Amen. Today we're going to be talking about the nature of Israel. And once again, so just to let you know, if you need to come over to YouTube, we will try our best. We have a few different TikTok channels I have on, but they do have a thing of, you travel, even if you can prove that you have a hands-free device, they really still don't really work well with you to make sure that your stuff doesn't get taken down. So if for some reason the live gets taken down, we'll try again on another channel. We have Kofi_42, Kofi_40. If that keeps being a problem, though, we'll just have to have everybody come over to the YouTube channel for today, just to give you a heads up. So if you do need to do that, just let us know once again. Or if you're on with us and that needs to happen, let us know. Oh, hold on one second. What's this? Okay, that's weird. That's it. All right. So excuse me, sorry. So we're going to get ready to get started. I apologize. I thought I was going the correct direction. I guess I'm not, or at least maybe for traffic concerns. But anyways, so we're talking about the nature of Israel, right? So many different places we can talk about in Scripture. Once again, I don't have the ability right now today of bringing out my Bible, and I need to be, more aware and cognitive and looking on the road. So, not necessarily right now. No, thank you. So, okay. So, we are looking at the nature of Israel. Now, when we talk about the nature of Israel, the nature of Yahshua, it's very important that we recognize what we're talking about in nature, especially natural or natural law, right? Because when we talk about the nature of Israel, we talk about what Israel is naturally, or even natural Israel. What is the nature of Israel, right? So, for example, what is your nature? A lot of times when we talk about what is my purpose, what is my vision, what is my mission, some of those things can be surmised by trying to figure out what is our nature. What is the things that you will naturally do? What are some of the things that you'll naturally take? Sometimes it's not even a great thing. We might have to revisit what you think your nature is or what your nature might have even become. But what is our nature? Before somebody mixed things up, before somebody told us we were something we weren't, before somebody had us looking at our skin or our hair or our worship incorrectly, even our Messiah incorrectly. What is our nature? And really, it comes down to even something that we would talk about a lot. What is our culture, right? Because if it's my nature, right, usually it's something that's also going to be my culture, right? So what is my culture? What is it that I culturally do? What are the things that I do that that I just naturally do by my nature, by my culture, right? What are some of the things that we do no matter where in the diaspora, right? It's not even necessarily going to be always hitting, even though obviously we're going to hit on a spiritual level. It's not even necessarily something that's being like, spiritual today. Just looking at even your nature. Why do you do some of the things that you do? What are some of the things that you do automatically, right? What are some of the things that you do that you were told was bad, and then you get around some of the other people who have the same nature, and you realize, oh, seems to be something that we do. A lot of people who are even raised out of the diaspora for different reasons. Maybe they were adopted, maybe they were, as people call it, mixed race children, and one of the parents, the parent who was of darker hue is no longer involved in the child's life, and the child grows up, in a certain manner, feeling different, being treated different, and thinking some of the things that they do are interesting, but also having this mindset that maybe there's something else to this thing called life or to their nature. And then they get around some of their own people, even some of their own family members, and they start to say, oh, this is something that I guess we do. This is something that I guess my father was known for. This is something I guess my mother was known for, go through all types of different things, right? So in going through these items and looking today and looking at the nature of things, looking at natural law even, what is the nature of Israel? Once again, what is our nature? What is our mindset? Where's our heart at? What is it to love in our nature? What is natural love? What is when our sisters are nurturers? What is the nurturing of Israel? What is the natural, or what is the nature of the nurturing? Right? We naturally nurture. Our sisters naturally nurture different than others. Right? I don't care what you want to tell me, and I'm gonna use the dreaded colonial terms that people say you shouldn't use. People say on both ends of the spectrum, but there's a different nurturing from a black mother than there is other mothers. And they're not saying it's better, it's saying it's different, right? Baby hits different than, oh, child or son, right? It hits different. There's a different nature, right? Now, once again, trying to say one is better than the other, it's different. And when you find out the nature of it, you look for the nature, you look for something naturally. And why does it feel different? Why does it feel different when your mother says, I love you, the way she says it than anybody else? Because there's something that's natural. There's a natural relationship that you've had. There's DNA memory. There's culture that you've come out of. There's certain issues that you've been raised in and raised by, even if you didn't go by them yourself because you were not there physically at that time. There's still a nature of something. There's still something that you go through, that you recognize, that you realize, that you honor because of what was, of the DNA memory and the spiritual nature of things and the soul ties and the different people you were raised around. There's a certain nature that comes with that nurture. So what is the nature of Israel? The signal's unstable. Okay, I'm sorry. Is the signal unstable for everybody? Matter of fact, hold on. I just realized. Okay. Are you guys able to hear me on YouTube? Okay. All right. Okay. Uh-oh. All right. So yeah, the nature of Israel, right? And I'm talking about down to the clothes that we wear today. I'm talking about down to how do we walk? I'm talking about down to why do we speak the way that we speak? Why is it that we like certain speech or respect certain speech from certain people in a different manner than what we normally would, right? I'm talking about on that level today. I want to talk about the nature of Israel. And then once we get into the nature of Israel, how do we nurture, right? And once we get into the nature of Israel, how do we therefore use this nature to nurture others, right? Once we get into the nature of Israel, then how do we use this to be natural nurturers? Because we, as the wife of Yahweh, we as the mother, if you will, of this, as far as the seed. Oh, yeah. Well, YouTube, I apologize. So, let's see. Yeah, they're saying that they would, yeah. Well, I'm going to try it on Kofi_42. And then I'll try to have to tell everybody again. Let's see. That is 6-3. Accent of store. Okay, yeah, so we can go right on again. But yeah, they're going to be looking for that. Okay. Sorry, you guys. I was telling you guys that they probably were going to do that with the live session. So I'm going Kofi_42 so we don't get another hit on the same channel. And let everybody know again that they might need to be ready to come over to YouTube this rising. I do apologize. Just give me a second. The nature of Israel. So I apologize once again, but so we're going to talk about the nature of Israel. And as we were telling people earlier, we might deal with this. So I'm going to bring up another TikTok channel, and we might deal with the same issue or whatever, but at least people have a chance to know that they need to come on over, or we can give them the information, or at least tell them to look in the link tree. But we thank you guys. We appreciate you, and we honor you today. So when we talk about the nature of Israel, and once again, if you're coming on, we're doing this as a reminder. They're probably going to take this down too, as they should, to be honest with you, because the policy says that we're not supposed to be in a moving vehicle on TikTok. So even when I've done hands free and stuff like that and all that, doesn't really matter. TikTok they're not really able to see the difference or catch the difference, even if just for a few minutes, and then they'll still turn it down. So just nothing to be known. If you guys want to come over and join us on YouTube, feel free to do so. This will probably go down. I'll probably even go to the original TikTok channel, and that'll probably go down as well. But then at least we'll make sure everybody's heard enough times. You can also look in the link tree, by the way, on our main TikTok page. Look on link tree, linktr./ my name KOFI_OFOR, or just go on the link tree. All right. But once again, we're talking about the nature of Israel. Thank you for your patience, everybody. Today we're talking about okay. No signal. Can you guys hear me on YouTube right now? It looks like you can. I don't know what's going on. But anyway, so okay, so today we're talking about the nature of Israel. Today we're talking about the nature of Israel. And so we're talking about everything from why do we walk the way that we walk, talk the way that we talk, how do we look at things from our perspective? Who shall believe our report? This is not everybody's report. This is not for everybody, right? This is for those who are followers of the way. This is for those who are Yachasharah, right? This is for those who will be obedient to the word and to the text, right? This is not for everybody. Unlike what many have been told or many have been taught, right? This word is not for everybody. We are not called to make sure that we live in righteousness with the world. We are called to be righteous and be separate from the world. So if this is what is going on, then what is our nature? So for example, okay, thank you, Holy Spirit. Why is it that we should ensure that we even figure out what our nature is? One of the reasons is that one of the things the enemy recognizes and how to make sure that he gets you off track is that he takes your nature away, or he changes who you were, or he changes your mindset about yourself. If I were to change your nature, right, or at least lie to you about what your nature is, then that means that what I'm doing is that I'm saying, I'm literally saying that who you are naturally, right, doesn't matter. Or I'm telling you that you were nobody naturally. You naturally could be a nobody if you have no nature, if you have no background, if you have no story, or his story says that your story is inadequate. Then why would you care about who you are naturally? You would always try to come outside of your nature. Now, in nature in and of itself, right? In nature in and of itself, it doesn't make sense for us to think about, nature within itself deals with nature within itself. Does that make sense? I don't know if it's making sense when I say that. Nature within itself deals with things naturally. Okay. So nature within itself. So if I take a cactus plant and I try to plant it in Alaska in the middle of the winter, right, it doesn't do that, because that's not its nature. It would be nice, like people would say, it'd be nice if it's a miracle. Yeah, I need a miracle. I need you to do something outside of what you said. It'd be nice if it happened, but if there's already natural law, then why would I try to go outside of it to see if I can make something work? Now, there are people who try to do that all the time. Oh, yeah, we got TikTok. Kofi_42 went down, same thing. Hey, man. I'll let everybody know one more time on Kofi_40, and then after that, I can't mess with it on any of them, because then they'll start shutting us down for a day here or something. But yeah, so it's important we recognize that even within nature, there's certain things that don't get to change over and over and over again, right? Right? We recognize that even within nature, there's certain things that don't change over and over and over again. It's important that we recognize that fact. It's important that we see that what Yah has for us continues to be in nature. If he created something to be a certain way, then that's what it is, right? If he created you to be a certain way, then that is who you are. If he said that you are the head and not the tail, then that's who you are, right? If somebody teaches you to be the tail and not the head, though, you can live that way. It'll be a curse. It'll hurt you. It'll be frustrating, but you can. And there are some people who will tell you that it's worth the difficulty. Right now, we know that the suffering at this present time is not worthy to be compared to what? To the glory which shall be revealed. But we're not just trying to suffer for the sake of suffering, right? We're not here to be suffering just for suffering's sake. But the world says suffer, and suffer sometimes 2, 3, 4, 5 times harder. And then the blessing is what? The blessing is heaven. When heaven is within us, which means that we should be able to recognize some heaven and have some peace and be able to go through things naturally, right? Because watch this. Israel, what is our salute to each other? And I'm sorry for asking that, like I can look at what you said in the chat. But right. But our salute to one another is Shalom. When we greet each other, our salute, our greeting is Shalom. It's peace. So if I salute you with peace, then that means that it's my nature to be at peace. So if I'm in a situation where I'm not at peace, it means I'm in a situation where I'm not Israel. Right? If we're looking at defining this correctly, if we will, or refining it, how about that? Because it's been redefined so many times. But my nature is peace. That's why I salute you with peace. That's why I say Shalom. Right? My nature is love. That's why I don't mind saying Achabach. And it's because it's not my love. It's the love of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. And it's Holy Spirit revealed. Right? My nature is to go back to the beginning or back to the origins. That's why I don't mind saying Badashat. The son who comes out the correct family is one with the Father. He became our head by being destroyed, being led by the Holy Spirit to the Tav. Right? That is my nature. So when I'm in my nature, which is the nature of Israel, then I am at peace. So many people, and that's one of the blessings that I've seen. That's one of the things that I've been able to catch. Is a lot of people will say, hey, since we've started coming around, we feel at peace. We feel like we know ourselves. We feel like we're learning language. These are things that are natural or natural. They are within our nature. If we stay within our nature, then we should be able to be at peace. Why? Because Yah says that's our nature. It's guaranteed. Right? If we try to start going outside of our nature, then there's some things guaranteed as well. right? But it's guaranteed that if we are inside of our nature, that we should have some things happen naturally or naturally, regardless of what circumstances things. A lot of your circumstances that you look at are not. So, for example, watch this. Anybody ever had a house and you have like these steps, or you have, anybody ever have steps and your steps are fine, whether they're made out of wood, concrete, whatever, they seem to be working fine. And all of a sudden, there's something that is growing, right? Let's say it's a tree. Let's say it's even just a weed. Let's say whatever. But it's something that's strong. And, it's something that's strong and it grows. It can start having the power to start displacing the steps. Now, you might say, how in the world is it growing through the steps or finding a way or this and that or whatever? But they put concrete down, or they laid this down. Maybe they put bleach down. They put chemicals in the ground to stop this or that, whatever. But you when you go through these things, you realize that even no matter what you're trying to do, you can't stop the nature of the plant, right? And this is just me coming on one more again to let everybody know that this is probably going to be stopped. So if you want to come over to YouTube with us, feel free to go over to the YouTube channel. You can look in the link tree, which should be in the description. I'm sorry, if you're on TikTok, it should be on the TikTok or our main TikTok page where it says bio, or also click on where it says website, and then you go from there and just go to the YouTube channel, #find Kofi. You should be able to find us there for the live today. All right. Amen. So if I'm in a situation, what's going on with TikTok? Hopefully you guys, it looks like you guys can still see us on YouTube. We have full signal. TikTok's not letting us. I guess TikTok's trying to do some other stuff besides just that. So once again, if you're on TikTok, TikTok's not messing with us today for some reason. Okay, they took it down. All right. So it is what it is. So we have no more warnings to come through there. Amen. But yeah, so when we're talking about this stuff and we're looking at what Yah wants us to do, we're talking about what today? The nature, right? We're talking about the nature of these things and what Yah wants us to be. So when Yah tells you that he is love, that means that is his nature. And so in nature, when he plants a seed in love, that means that seed that's been planted in love is what? It's supposed to naturally do what? Inside of you, inside of your heart, inside of the dirt that is the ground. It's supposed to do what? It's supposed to impregnate that ground, impregnate our heart. Our heart that's not supposed to be dealing with what? Our heart that's supposed to not be uncircumcised, but is circumcised, that the spirit, the nature of Yah, his spirit, because Elohim is not flesh, but he is what? He is a spirit. And they that worship him must do so in what? In spirit. Ravak at amat, in spirit and in truth. So the spirit resonates into or is sown into our hearts, and it begins to grow. And water, which also represents spirit as well, but water and light, Yahashua is the light, begins to take place, right? Photosynthesis. And even in dark times, right? Even in the darkness, the water might be all that it has. It might not even be able to see the light, might not even be able to see certain things, but it still goes and grows and starts going towards the light, right? So as we're going in this dark place and as we're moving and as we're having Yah sow seed in us naturally, within our nature, naturally, as Yah is doing these things, right? What is he sowing? And is it growing in your heart? Is it growing in your life? Is it growing in your spirit? Is it growing in your function, in your day by day function, in your habits? Are we habitually within our nature? Is your nature habitual? Is who you are habitual? Are you living this life every day, right? Or are you somebody that goes in and out of your nature? Because that's what makes us have cognitive dissonance or to be double-minded, is to know, right? To be aware, not just aware, but to know, to be intimate with the fact that our nature, or maybe we should say aware, I'm not sure, but to have the info, the intel that our nature is outside of the nature of Yah is, in fact, cognitive dissonance. That's exactly what it is. It's double-minded. It's two competing ideas. I am supposed to be as Yah is, but at the same time, I'm trying to be worldly. That's why even if I'm in the world, I'm not of it, because my behavior, my culture, my nature, right, declares unto myself and to others by my habits even that I am not, the same. I'm built different. I'm peculiar, right? I'm not. Remember, we talked about that for the brothers, we talked about that the last couple of days. But we talked about that yesterday a little bit. How the peculiar in me should really keep the familiar in me in check. The things that are familiar to me, and that caused me to say, well, I don't necessarily have faith because of what I'm familiar with, and that doesn't seem to work. Well, that's worldly, but peculiarity that pulls me out of the world, the spirit in me, the spirit man, and not even only my spirit, but right, works inside of me to be able to say, just because that's what the world says and does, that does not mean that's what we say and do. So we have to, once again, what is our nature? See, okay, when we were taken from our places, or when somebody came and colonized our places, however you want to look at it, whether you're talking about that you're Native American, whether you're talking about that you are indigenous to Africa, you're Indo Australian, wherever place you're saying you're coming from, you're Japanese, Chinese, you're even somebody who's from our diaspora and yet at the same time has been scattered to Scotland or Ireland or to England. I mean, these are all real possibilities, right? So no matter where you say you come from, no matter where your place of origin is, so to speak, even though that's our origin is all the same place, but nevertheless, wherever you want to say these places that you really come from, and now you're trying to, get back into what Yah says and get grafted in again, etc. And all these things that are going on in your life, we have to ask the question, and all these different things, right? You're this, you're Native American, you're this, you're that, whatever. Okay. Your nature when it came to land is different than it is now, right? You're in a place where in the world you have to own land. And one of the tricky things that we even do that happens in our own diaspora, if we're not careful, is we teach, oh yeah, well, we never have a concept of owning land. We don't care about this. Yeah, we didn't own land per se, as far as we thought that we were over the land, but we were stewards of land, right? This is our nature. So if you were Choctaw, if you were Cherokee, if you were Seminole, if you were Haudenosaunee, if you were Jamaican, if you were Khalifa, all these different branches, right? If you were Inca, etc. Yes, the land didn't belong to you because the land was everybody's and the land was the Most High's, but you still were supposed to be a steward. So what happens when somebody changes your nature and tells you don't worry about, they call it ownership of land, but tells you don't worry about having land at all? Well, what happens? Well, now we become a lot of persons, and we become I would say people, but we're trying to become a people again. We become a bunch of persons who not only don't have a land to identify with, or at least realize wherever our foot treads, it belongs to us, but also we don't think about growing food, or does food, is our food natural or natural, or what are the natural or natural things that we eat? Like, have you ever thought about that? Where your people, like whoever your people are, right? Even if you're saying besides Israel. So if you are Ghanaian, you should at least know what Ghanaians eat, because your people eat that, not just because they are Ghanaian only, but because it grew near them, right? Therefore, and by the way, Elder I was next to me. She can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe, I don't know if there's the saying, but how the saying goes, but basically, if stuff is growing around you, then that means that you probably need it, and you're breathing into it as it breathes into you, literally. So if you have things that are around you or that have been around your people, more than likely you need it, even if you don't know what it does, right? You have to be careful with that, obviously, for education purposes only. But even if you are not 100% sure as to what it does, if it's growing around you, more than likely, especially if it's like a place you've lived years and years and years, if it's growing around you, more than likely it's because you need it, right? You've been taught to cut it because you've been taught to call it a weed. You've been taught to say that it's unnecessary. You've been taught, but see, our nature is one where we were, not only were we people who were travelers, but also we were farmers. But not only we were shepherds, but not only shepherds, we were farmers. And even if you look at the term Avda or Ivrit or Ibre, etc., and you look up in Kemet, those who actually used to heal people with herbs, they were called us. They were Avna, they were Ibra, they were Ivne. So if you went to Kemet, they were looking for people who had Hebrew nature when it came to healing. And then they took that on and did some other things. And I'm not going to say, I can't sit here and say every single thing they came up with really was just from us, because that's not 100% true. But at the same time, a lot of it did. That's how, we even tried, we were in a library somewhere, and we were finding books. And I think my wife found a book on Israel and how we would have healed ourselves. And of course, it wasn't written by us. And the person starts going to, well, Israelites never believed in actually using herbs. They believed in that you just prayed, and we were very esoteric. So I was like, no, that's not true at all. Even in your Bible, it declares, not just in Revelation, by the way, but in other scriptures too, that the herbs are for the healing of the nation. People get that twisted, that it's only in Revelation. No, that's in your so-called Old Testament as well, that the herbs are for the healing of the nation. And so it was our nature to make sure that we ate herbs. We don't think about that naturally, but it's our nature. We have been tricked into what? Go to the store or go to your doctor. To send you to a pharmaceutical place, Pharmakia. Pharmakia is a spirit that literally, she's a witch, and she would concoct the stuff, the things that you see in those Looney Tunes stuff where somebody would have the big old vat or bowl or cauldron. Okay, thank you. I didn't know what it's called. And they're mixing the stuff, and Bugs Bunny would be in there, not knowing that he's chopping up stuff that's going to be on his own body and some craziness like that they're showing you, right? But that was who Pharmakia was. And so if you go to a pharmacy, that's the spirit. That's the spirit of pharmacy, the spirit of Pharmakia. And it's done to control. It's done, you are the heart. Earth, wind, water, fire, heart, right? Or earth, wind, water, fire, sacrifice. Earth, wind, water, fire, person. Matter of fact, there's a lot of places to where when they do witchcraft, they'll tell you straight up, you have to go get a person who is of African descent or black or Negro or Negroid features, Native American, etc. They'll tell you straight up in some of these covens that that's what they want you to do if they're going to teach you, because you have to have some of that that's there, because it's considered also to be origin. So if this is what we're talking about, if this is what we're looking at today, this is what we're sent to talk about, we got to talk about the nature of these things. Our nature was to make sure that we knew how herbs worked within Yah's nature, so that somebody couldn't come and modify it, including even using you. And by the way, they still do it today, because how many medicines, now they'll always try to say, oh no, it's always fake, which is interesting, because even if it's fake, you still recognize the necessity of using us anyways, even if you're modifying it, because fake could just mean that they change a little something here or there. Fake doesn't mean that it's completely synthetic. That being said, though, how many sun things like sunscreen have melanin in it? Or how many, like, we're using computers right now, all of us who are watching this and are part of this today, or if you're watching this later on recording, how many of us are using things that have melanin in the computer chips? Solar panels, things of that nature, solar energy. How many of you watch this? Even now, obviously, it's not necessarily your electricity, but even the electricity that comes through them studying your body to see these things or whatever. If we knew how a lot of these things were even created, we would recognize the nature or the power, right? The nature. The nature of who we are. I'm sorry, y'all. Excuse me. We would recognize the nature of who we are, the power that's within us. So, we're sitting up here going through all these different things about what somebody else is telling us about ourselves, and we don't recognize who we are naturally. If you have enough power to literally, right, if somebody studied your body to make sure that and I want you to think about this now. If somebody studied your body enough and then said, by studying your body, they realized how to empower a whole city. Like, they studied your body to see how it works, and they said, you know what? We can make a city work off of this. We can have a whole grid off of this, right? Somebody studied that. I'm not saying that we're doing the Matrix thing necessarily, right, where I'm saying that they have you plugged in and all that, even though we know spiritually we can go there. And some people would even believe that it's actually, the same thing as the Matrix. I'm not going into that. What I'm saying, though, is that somebody looked at your body and studied it and said, how does electricity work in your body? right? Somebody studied, how does electricity work in your body? Oh, okay. How does your body turn on and off? All right, if you get electrocuted, somebody studied that. Somebody, believe it or not, people took people's bodies, people made slaves of people and said, if we shut this down, what happens electrically? I can talk. These are the things that people are doing all the time, and we're not even considering to thinking twice about it, right? And Yah says you have that much power, you have that much influence, you have that much influence. What's interesting about it? Yah said he made the universe, right? What he spoke into existence is for us, right? For us to have dominion, to give us dominion, to him to expand his kingdom, while at the same time allowing you to have kingdom, right? Okay. Yah said he expands his kingdom, right? And he makes the universe. He spoke the universe into existence, universal law. We know what that means. Cool. Yah expands the universe. Praise Yah, right? He expands the universe. And at the same time, the thing that you're going to have dominion over, it looks like you. Now, a lot of times what people do is they try to say, we usually do this in reverse. People usually go, do you not realize that you're just a part of the universe, a speck in the universe, because you were the universe that developed itself, right? Made you, and therefore you can't look like anything different than the universe. You can't operate differently than the universe. But one of the issues with that is that Yah said that he made the universe with you in mind. Correct? So if he said that he made the universe with you in mind, then that means that when he made the universe with you in mind, he made the universe to not only serve you, to not only move when you say move, because remember, you can speak and the universe will listen and hear and adhere to what it is that you tell it. But then also he made it because he wanted it to look like you, to look like its ruler, right? If he is the King of Kings, then we are the rulers, right? And as the rulers, it's easier for things to submit to them when they look like that. One of the reasons why it's easy for you, at least some of us, I know it's difficult. I used to be somebody who's difficult, but prayerfully, it's easy for you to submit to your parents, or at least to honor your parents. We don't necessarily have to submit, but honor our parents. The reason why, and we should submit to a certain degree. However, the reason why it's easy to honor your parents is because you look like them, you smell like them, you walk like them, you laugh like them, you talk like them, right? They were created, right? They were created with you in mind. They couldn't help it, but also you were created with them in mind. This is our nature, the nature of Israel, the nature of law, the nature of universe. Law is nature and nature is law. But the natural law, the natural progression of things, right? I was created to look like my Abba. I was created to sound like him. This is why it says that scripture in Genesis, or Barashat Aleph at Kaf Vav, or Genesis chapter 1 verse 26. It actually says, instead of let us make man in our image, it actually says, let us make man inside of our image and after our likeness. So the image of Yah is inside of you. This is why even your DNA, right? This is why even with your DNA, it had your DNA has the Yah when it's wrapping itself around in that double helix, right? Because it has to have for every man, it has to have every man, every woman, it has to have it has to have Yehovah's name on it, his authority, his image is in you. Matter of fact, here's something that might bless you with something that sometimes we have arguments with people on. The reason why you shouldn't worry about a graven image is because why would you carve something when his image is already on you? Right? He's already carved himself on you that you might be able to worship him from the inside out. Right now, if I'm going to worship, a graven image or create one, that means first of all I'm trying to create something that doesn't need to be created, and because we're already here. But number two, if I'm going to try to worship a graven image, what happens is that now I'm trying to come outside of what he created. So even though we have no problem saying Yehoshua is black, and I don't mind showing a picture here or there to at least be like, hey, you know, this is what some of the people depicted in that. I don't really just show pictures and just be like, oh, this is what Christ looked like, because I don't know, right? But I can tell you according to what Scripture says and according to what people used to draw all the time before iconoclasts took over, we can see very clearly, oh, this is what people thought he looked like, or at least this is more of the area that he looked, more of the arena of thought that he looked like. That being said, though, I don't worship the picture. I don't worship the graven image, right? I don't worship the wood, right? That doesn't become what I worship. I might wear a cross from time to time. I've actually been looking for one. I've been looking for a tile to wear, but the ones that I find, they usually are. So everybody adds all this extra stuff to things nowadays, and you can't really wear them the way you ought to do. And I got a big old head with all this hair, so I got to find the perfect, chain and all that too. But long story short, right? I'm even looking for something, but it's got to be something that's righteous. And even if I get it, though, it doesn't mean I worship the carving, right? It doesn't mean I worship even the tithe itself. I recognize the power of and the nature of what happened on the tithe, right? But I don't worship the tithe itself. This is why people, when they get all frustrated and bothered by the Ankh, it's really weird to me, because I'm like, I don't worship the Ankh. It's like when somebody says, oh yeah, you're wearing a wedding ring, and in Rome they worship blah blah. I don't worship what Rome worship. And on top of that, right, to act like Israel had no rings is crazy, because we know they did. So I'm not worshiping the ring or trying to worship somebody else, right? I'm not going to allow somebody to take what Yah has said is my nature and allow somebody else to manipulate or change it or modify it. You see the difference, right? So yeah, it's correct that this is in fact, for somebody else, for some other culture, that is their nature. For somebody else's culture, to have long hair is a curse, but that's not our custom, as Paul said, right? That's not my nature. So if you're trying to read me that scripture to tell me why I have to cut my hair, that's not my nature. So I'm going to stay within my nature, and I'm going to be excellent within my nature, and I'm going to applaud my nature, which means if I live within my nature is within me, then I must applaud myself. Here is where self-worth and self-value comes in. We were talking about on Saturday, right? We had Elder Alma on the podcast. Here is now where we're dealing with, the self-worth, the self-value, loving your neighbor as you love yourself, right? My self-worth, my value, my nature comes from what Yah has put naturally in me. And it's natural for me to put Yah first. And as I do so within my praise Yah, it becomes easier for me now to be in my nature and be all right with it. A lot of people aren't okay with their nature because they were told that their nature is to a certain degree, garbage. The only reason why people don't like natural hair in our culture is because somebody told you that nature makes you cavemen, even though they had cavemen, or made you too much like a pygmy, as if that's something that should be embarrassing to you, right? Like, think about it. They took the nature of people and put them in positions to where they said you should be upset and ashamed and frustrated by it. Right? Like they made you say, oh man, you got kinky hair. Look at how those pygmies have blah blah. Like, yeah, the pygmies look great for their culture and what they're in. I'm not a pygmy, by the way, but if I look like a pygmy and we both come from the same Abba, the same source, then I'll run with that, sure. But instead, they made you go, no, you don't want to look like that. You want to look like, and I'm not trying to do racism or reverse racism. I'm just being honest. This is what was done with eugenics, correct? This is what was done with evolution. This is what was done. So we gotta go back to the nature and who changed the nature, including who changed the nature on the other side, right? So they wanted you to feel more comfortable with looking like the oppressor. And by the way, this is something that everybody did. When you talk about blonde hair and blue eyes, for example, that was not a Hitler thing. That was a Greek thing. And Greeks, a lot of the Greeks who were in power, including Alexander the Great's father, they look like us. 300, King Leonidas, he looked like us. Matter of fact, a lot of stuff that comes out about him now, especially cartoons, when they do artist renderings, they'll tell you straight up that yeah, like he looked he looked like us. He had locks and everything. He was swarthy. So where did the blonde hair, blue eyes thing come from? Well, we had people with blonde hair, blue eyes all the time on the earth. That was not an issue, right? But then there were these kings that came into power and they wanted to keep stuff in their family. How do you do this? You start doing things like saying, well, we have a stronger bloodline. You start saying everybody should bow down to us. You start saying people should even start worshiping us. Well, if they're going to worship you, then you start saying, well, we're demi-deists or we're half gods, demigods, right? Demi-deists. He'll worship us. And I have the spirit of Hercules. I mean, I have the spirit of this one. I have the spirit of that one. And my deist that I worship allows me to do blah blah, and we have the oracle, and and you start going to all these things, right? And as you conquer other people, you start putting their deities in yours and saying that they serve yours. So whoever was around when Kronos was in charge, Kronos was the one in charge, right? Whoever was around when Gaia was in charge, Gaia was the one that was in charge. Right? Eventually, somebody comes along and their person who got them where they're supposed to be over everybody else is Zeus. So now Zeus is in charge. And eventually, when all of Greece has to come together because they fight the Persians and they start becoming a world power, well, now you got to change it to make sure everybody's under whoever the last person in charge was. So now they hire people to say, well, Zeus was in charge, and how do we say that everybody else comes under Zeus? They change the nature of all these different things. Well, the same thing happens on the throne. You have people that look like us, but say, hey, you know what, we need people to follow us. Well, how are they going to follow us? What's one of the ways we can say that they're better than them? And they'll automatically say they got to bow down. Oh, well, you see, we have blonde hair and blue eyes. So we'll just start telling everybody you must have blonde hair and blue eyes in order to be looked at as special by the deists, by the deities. Right? Now, the question that comes in, well, what if the deities, what if somebody who's not in the family ends up with blonde hair, blue eyes? Then we'll mention that something must be special about them. But if they're not part of our family, they're still not the same as us, right? That was something that wasn't a Germanic thing, you know, or an Austrian-Hungarian thing, or a Jewish thing. By the way, Hitler was Jewish. I know. We like people don't like to do that. That's like a little thing that we just kind of throw under there. We like Jewish people, Ashkenazi people never talk about the fact that Hitler himself was in fact Jewish, and so we keep forgetting he was a liar. Right? So we keep forgetting that he was a liar, right? Like when people go, he had a cross behind him, yeah, propaganda. He hated the Jews, yeah, propaganda. Well, you know, he said that you know, the Jewish people that it was often, they're not the real Jews. Yeah, but it was still propaganda because he was offing his own family and offing Jewish people, and he was offing us too. There were concentration camps for us too. Right? Like we forget, but we'll just go ahead and try to follow the propaganda. That's why we always have to study to show ourselves approved, so we don't just automatically do this weird thing of just hating, especially without any kind of fact or context, right? So, but that started with Greeks who looked like us, who said blonde hair and blue eyes is it. Why? Because our family has blonde hair and blue eyes. So it's not in our nature to be colorist. It's not in our nature, right? That's a satanic thing. That's a worldly thing. That's a false deity thing. That's a demi-deist thing. It's not in our nature to hate on somebody because of the different shades in their skin, especially when we can't control it. Not just only because we can't control it from a DNA standpoint. We can't control it when a lot of people. Well, shoot, I'm on YouTube today and I'm not on TikTok, so I'm gonna just say it the way it is. Look, we can't control it when a lot of our the persons of our people, especially dealing with our sisters who give childbirth, they were raped. Oh, actually, I got to be careful with that word too. I got Solomon in the car. Excuse me, Solomon. I'm sorry. All right, where they were messed with in that nature, right? So we have to be careful even with that, because a lot of stuff that we're going with is people who tried to get you to identify with them as colonizers, and they are not really. Now, this is where it gets into the natural thing. I'm talking because we got to talk about the spiritual nature as well, because there's a spiritual nature of things, not just only a physical nature. Yes, there is a such thing as a spiritual nature of things, right? If there's a tree in heaven, for example, is that natural? You see, people get in these weird places where we misuse words. So even though that's not exactly what natural means, but I'm trying to give you, because somebody would be, well, the trees are natural, they're physical. Yeah, but there's a tree in heaven, right? You want access to the tree of life in heaven again. Well, then that's your nature has to be something that allows you to get there, so that your nature, you can take off the nature of corruptible and put on the nature of incorruptible, that you might be able to eat an incorruptible fruit that comes with incorruptible seed or zara or word even. So, but when we look at this stuff, we have to start once again seeing question. We might even have to question our nature, because our nature might not be Israel's nature or what Yah's original nature or his original intent for us was. When you look at the Willie Lynch mindset, and I can't really look at it because I'm riding, but I think I saw somebody put something like that in the chat earlier. If you look at what Willie Lynch even says, he says that you have to drop as much, and I'm just quoting, good white blood in with the N-word blood. That's what he said. That's what they taught. Now, why do you do that? He said you do that to cause confusion, and you do that to make sure that you have different sects, S-E-C-T-S, different sections, right? Different classes of people, so that people would fight. We would begin to fight within ourselves, right? And we would begin to believe that we were so powerless, which is not our nature. Our nature is to be full of power. Matter of fact, why would they use us as slaves when we didn't start off as the original slaves? Even that should tell you something about the power that you have, right? They could have kept having Irish people do what they were doing in England, but Irish people can't do what you do. No shade. I'm not trying to be offensive. It's just real, right? Like, if we be honest, what's, besides STDs, which is crazy, but besides STDs, what is the number one disease in Israel? At least I think it still is.
Skin cancer.
Right, yeah, skin cancer. So that should show you something. STDs is crazy. They'll be number one, which shows all this stuff they talk about following law. Obviously, we got to be like, okay. But then number two, or I guess just being, not unclean living, who knows, right? But then number two might be number one, but number two is skin cancer. Now, that's not because you're automatically bad because you have lighter skin, but let's just be honest. If you don't have as much melanin, it's going to be a little harder to deal with the sun, no matter how much skin cream you put on. That's just reality, right? Like somebody who's blue black, and I'm not even trying to make fun of people. There's Nigerians and others who are known as blue black people. Somebody who's blue black, they're not going to deal with some of the same stuff that I would deal with, even if you would consider me to be darker skinned, because they're darker than me. So there's sometimes when the sun would hit me, it's going to hit me different than it hits them, right? And matter of fact, they need to be in the sun longer even than I do, because the sun, it takes a lot more sun to penetrate and get melanin stirred up and things of that nature, and get the the hypothalamus resonating and all that stuff. It takes longer for them. Pineal gland to get going, pituitary gland to get going. It takes longer for them to get going because of how much melanin they have. So it's not even a white versus black. It's just natural. This is nature. This is science. That it would take longer, right? So even the fact that somebody realized they had to use you before they use somebody else. Matter of fact, here's nature again. Why is it now? This is not necessarily something they should have done, and it's not even necessarily the best thing for the baby. But they recognized that you were strong enough to work in the fields, to do all this stuff, to be the house Negro, and to make sure that you literally raised their children, not just spiritually, emotionally, etc. Even though we were in a bad place and we were thinking we were supposed to raise them to be over us, which a lot of us did, which is why a lot of us still raise them to be over us, if we be honest, right? But also too, we were raising them to be over us even by our sisters, by their own bosom, right? They were the ones that breastfed. their children, and breastfed the next generation of master, and breastfed the next generation of eugenics. That was commonplace. But that should show you the strength that even the people who say that you're nothing, they can't even get to a place of writing, of doctoring things that people would write their write their dissertations and stuff like that, and to get their master's degrees to become the next set of teachers over the next set of bachelors, or people who are looking for the baccalaureates, to ensure that they would go ahead and make sure that they could have a secondary mind that comes from them having an elementary mind, right? All that stuff wouldn't even exist if it wasn't on them being on your backs and eating off of you, literally. That should show you the strength that even the people who say that you're not strong have to depend on you to make sure that they can get to a place of writing how weak you are. That should show us something about ourselves, about our nature. The fact that in all the stuff that's been done to you and we're still here, that in and of itself, sometimes you got to give y'all like a "I'm still here" praise. I don't know, right? Like sometimes you got to give him a "I'm still here" praise. Sometimes "we're still here" is enough testimony. It should be enough. That should be a rallying cry. If we be honest, if we really knew who we were, the fact that we're still here. Look, there's some ignorance. There's still some pants sagging, right? There's still some, there's still some hating on each other. There's still some we don't need each other out there. There's still a lot of stuff that we've got to correct. We're coming out of hundreds of years of stuff. Besides that, really thousands of years of things. There's people that are walking around still in the curses. We know all this stuff still exists. But let's just be honest. Sometimes you got to give y'all "I'm still here" praise. I'm thankful because there's a lot of things that were supposed to remove me or take me out, but I'm still here. We're still here. Right? Like our great grandparents, many of us, you don't even have to go that far. Some of you can go to your grandparents, some of you might be able to go to your parents. But our great grandparents, bare minimum. Right? Everybody should be able to say it. Our great grandparents and be able to say something along these lines, no matter where you were in the diaspora. Your great grandparents were never supposed to be free enough to even allow you to get to the place of where you are now. Some of them were not even supposed to survive. Forget thrive. Some of them were supposed to work just long enough to make sure that they would be able to pass out somewhere on the field. Seriously. Anybody who comes from places where y'all did sugarcane, go do some research on what they thought. They thought that you were not going to make it. In places where they did sugarcane, they didn't bother with breeding camps because people weren't going to be able to breed because you were going to work too hard. I'm not saying anything that's facetious like that. You can't, even if you want to say fine, you don't believe in the slave trade, this and that. I'm just telling you, or at least on the boats and stuff, especially people who say it's 0%. I'm trying to tell you, it gets a little weird because there were so many people that were overworked that they didn't even bother trying to do breeding camps or different things like that, because they were like, you're not going to live long enough. Matter of fact, in New York, we know this if you go and study the bones of children and adults, but children and adults in New York, right? They didn't expect you to live. They had to bring people to replenish Wall Street. That's why Wall Street was huge. It was big money, right? It was big money. And people say, well, New York's not on the edge of the water. Yes, it is. New York's right on the water. At Wall Street and all that, you just walk the people on. And the big wall that was there, they would bury people on the other side of the wall. They were only allowed, up to 5 to 10 slaves to be able to come to anybody's funeral or whatever. That was the max. And the wall was there on Wall Street. And what you did on when you had the people who were sold at Wall Street, they were stock, and you paid a bond, and they got a certificate. And on your certificate, it still does the same thing, by the way. They just carried the same thing. They did that in England, by the way, and in a lot of places. And you would see the certificate, and the certificate would have the straw man. That was the new name they were giving you. That was a false version of who you were. But at the same time, you were an artificial person because you were a slave. Right? Like these are the things that were done purposefully. These are things that were done. We know that they were done. We know that these things existed. We are well aware. This isn't even something we have to think that hard about. However, we praise Yah, because if that was your nature, then you wouldn't be here. You made it past all that. See, this is where it comes to now where we got to change. And I'm going to take my leave, in a little bit. We're on the road, as you can see, and we already had issues with signal and stuff like that. So we praise y'all for everybody being on here. Thank you so much. I can't really look at your comments and stuff again today. Maybe I'll try to go back to the video later and look at people's comments and stuff. And I appreciate you for being on here with us and being faithful. And if you watch this later on, thank you for finding us. #find Kofi. And thank you for being part of that. So see, we're this year, 2024, for us, we expect the blessing. And we praise y'all for you and for what he's doing in our lives, right? But y'all brought us all this way, and they've tried, like the world has tried to take you out. The world has tried. A lot of you, don't even think about the fact that blanqueamiento or stuff like that, like the whitening of our people, that some of us who carry our skin tone should be thankful and grateful that we have any of it anymore, because there was a lot of play to try and get you. Well, once we can't enslave you this way, maybe we can try to get you to where you guys just become, part of us. We'll still look down on you, but it'll be easy to stomach you, and we can say you're part of our family. We have been able to still keep to Israel. We have still been able to keep to being who we are. We still, now a lot of us even coming into who we are as far as our branches or our nations that even are not the Israelite nations, or even that are Israelite, but like if you're talking about your, Hadanashani side, etc. Right? Like we're getting into a place where we're recognizing that we're still here. And if we're still here, I just believe, because I don't believe in coincidence, I believe that we're here for a purpose. And part of our purpose has to deal in our nature. So if my purpose is tied to that's a word. Because, a lot of people will ask, well, what is my purpose? How do I find my purpose? What is your nature? This is why culture is big. What is your nature? Naturally, who are you supposed to be? Because you will become who you are. This sounds weird, but the word is not, it doesn't say eventually come, or it doesn't say eventually be, or it doesn't even mean come into being over time. It's come into being. It's be, and then come. Be, and then come. Why are you coming? When do you come? When do you show up? When do you show up? You come because somebody bids you to, or you come because somebody invites you to. The word called, kletos, means to be invited to. So you're invited to be. Invited to be what? Invited to be who you've always been. Invited to be what? Invited to be who you always be. Right? I be Kofi. I've been Kofi. I will be Kofi. I come into being. I've been invited to be that. I will continue to come into it. I will continue to walk into it. Become. Even when Adam is breathed into, and you look at the language that it says, when it says that he became a living soul, it actually uses the word, is closer to the word become. Yahweh says become. Right? Become who you are. You already be. I'm in eternity right now. I'm telling you who you be. I've told you who your nature is. I've written it down. I've had scribe after scribe, prophet after prophet after prophet, marach after marach after marach, continuously telling you and teaching you and showing you these things. I've had your family go through different things or whatever, and still continuously be who they're supposed to be. Not just come into your being, come into your nature. Who are you naturally? Are you naturally supposed to toil for who you toil for? If not, time to make plans. Maybe that had to be used to be able to get you, right? Like the ship. Maybe you had to deal with the ship. You had to deal with the ship to be able to make it onto the land. You had to deal with the dreaded trail of tears. You had to be John Henry and them and walk from where you were in Florida all the way over to where you are. I said John Henry. Seminoles. John Horse. You had to be John Horse, and you had to walk from Florida all the way over into Mexico. Okay. Right? That was the vehicle that was used to make sure that you were kept, that you were separated, that you were protected by the law, that you could have your own culture and nature, right? Those things were there. Now that you have others who are coming into knowledge of who they are, become, right? You were kept, become, right? You have the opportunity to go back and see certain things. And I know some people don't like to do this, but every once in a while, I would even say for your children's sake, You have to deal with your children where they are, right? I would even say for your children's sake, let them see some of the bad things that happen to us. Not necessarily on YouTube or anything, or like something where they seeing it. I'm saying let them go to where Harriet Tubman took us across the River Jordan. Right? Let them see that. Let them feel that. Let them go to where um, uh, Pastor John Brown and his children and others who look like us and slaves they freed that day. By the way, we never talk about them, but slaves who fought for their own freedom, how they got free and fought against them. Let them go to places in Texas. Those of you who live in Texas, let them go to places come Juneteenth, and let them see where you, and let them see where you said, something that's on my bucket list of one day to do. But they have a whole, like, you can go there, visit there, live there, talk to the king, all that, right? And see like you are royalty. Matter of fact, let your children know that the times that you have more money than what you have now, the time you have more capital per, what is it, capital per person or whatever they call it, is when you were even segregated, or when you had kingdoms, or when you had these branches or these nations, or if you want to call them tribes. We know what that word actually means. Let them know, let them see it. I'm thankful now when I go back, and because I always trying to figure out why was my mom always taking us to the Holocaust Museum. But I'm thankful because I saw a lot of stuff that wasn't just about Jewish people. They were honest somewhat in there, and they said show you what happened to Black people, what happened to Jehovah's Witnesses, what happened to Christians, what happened to writers, what happened to white people that said that no, we think that everybody is a human being. Like they showed you all these different things. Now, I haven't been there in years, to be honest, but I'm just saying I grew up seeing some of that stuff, and it helped me to be in a place to where now I'm not afraid to talk about it. I'm not afraid to preach about it. I'm not afraid to look at that part of our people, and at the same time say that's not who we are. I'm able to parse through it and realize that yeah, there were some people that were mistaught, but also at the same time realize there were some people who knew exactly what they were doing, and even in that, forgive. And even if I don't trust, forgive. And if people want to build up trust, let them build up trust. I'm able to go through some of those things because somebody allowed me to see that, hey, instead of running away from this, let me show it to you. Why? Because it's not your nature. I'm so thankful for my mom. She used to say, and she's somebody that passed for white easily, sometimes would even call herself white a lot because that's what everybody called her. And for the longest time, I thought nothing of it till I pretty much till she almost passed away. And I started realizing, some of the stuff, and realizing what my sister looked like and my brother looked like versus what I look like. And even though I look a lot like her, people don't even think about me looking like that because I have the skin color I have, etc. Right. But I started to talk to her, I guess talk at her. She was kind of, well, anyways, I don't go into all that. But she became somebody who was a study case for me, in the manner that, why would you say the things that you said to me and stuff like that, especially because she was losing her life. And so, I'd always wonder what was these certain things she was saying over and over again. And she said to me my whole childhood, saying stuff like, don't ever let anybody tell you that you're not handsome. And all sons get that, but that was like a huge, like it was a real specific thing. And she would talk about like, your father's handsome, you're handsome. And I'd be like, why is she like why is it like such a big, why is she saying that specifically? But then come to find out that her family and my family didn't like each other because of colorism, right? If you want to say that she was white or whatever, then fine, because of racism on both sides, or reverse, I don't know what you call it, like these terms, racism, reverse racism, whatever, but you get what I'm saying, right? It gets to a place where some of this stuff we can see it doesn't even make sense. But long story short, I was raised in some of that and still deal with the effects of it, where there's certain part of the family just fell off. I don't see him anymore on both sides, but especially one side I see considerably less than the other. And in all that being said, like I began to realize she was telling me, that's not your nature. If somebody says you're not handsome or whatever, that's not your nature. And I still deal with some of that to this day. I still have a hard time sometimes believing that, I'm, according to the world standard, and I get it, according to the world standard, especially with all this stuff in my face and everything, I guess I'm not like a 10, 9, 8. I don't know how to rate myself. My wife loves me and says that that she thinks I'm handsome. That's enough for me. Praise Yah. And that Yah said that I'm handsome. And so now I've begun to believe in it. But it takes some stuff sometimes. I remember growing up, even before I had a little chip here. I remember growing up and the fact that I had, what you call it when your teeth push forward or with buck teeth or something, or I don't know, or whatever. I had teeth pushed forward and had a gap that's supposed to make you, that was supposed to make me unattractive, or at least people joke on you, make fun of you because of it. But you get to a certain place where you go, you realize she was instilling in me, she was letting me know, like, besides just this typical mother, of course, your son is handsome. But no, she was making it known, like, don't ever think that you're not, that you're not who Yah says you are. And don't ever let what somebody says because of your skin color, because she saw it and she heard certain things. And I can only imagine, what they went through and stuff like that, not just with family. Sometimes I wonder, I've never really asked, maybe I should ask my father one day. He didn't really let people's words, like, he's different, built different in that regard. He doesn't really let people's words get to him. Sometimes I do. But I don't know, what they would have gone through, especially in the time they got together, in the 70s, 80s, stuff like that, which we act like everybody was cool, and it wasn't. What they went through, even and stuff like that. But she made it a point. I'm going to tell you, this is not your nature. I'm going to tell you, I don't care what they say about you. I don't care what they operate in. I don't care about blah, blah, blah. This is not your nature. Don't let somebody tell you you are something that you're not. She make it a point to say all the time, like, you are not stupid. You're not dumb. You're not slow. I don't care what they say. And you're thinking to yourself, why? But you come to get older and realize, oh, I can do the same thing. What's that old saying? You can do twice as much, or you can do twice as much. What is it? We do twice as much to get half as much, or we do something like that, right? And that old saying goes, like, we can be sitting up here doing all this stuff. I'm teaching all these next generation of people. I'm having all these people who don't look like me coming into position and powers and stuff like that, and everybody's saying they're so grateful and thankful to have so and so that's around. And I'm but I can't get the promotion, and I can't get this, and I can't get that. But she was letting me know that's not your nature. And so I'm very thankful that I've had influence such as my mother, and influence in life, and that the Most High has been my greatest influence. My wife has been an influence. Solomon speaks words of encouragement all the time. Many of you have to certain degrees done so as well, but we have to get back to this place of realizing that we are, just because the world, or just because the system has been set up to say certain things about us, it doesn't mean that that's who we are, right? It's not our nature. And it's okay for us to realize, it's natural for us to get back to our nature. It's natural for us to want to speak our own language. It's natural for us to want to raise our children correctly. It's natural for us to become royalty again. It's natural for us to get away from democracy, right? All these things are natural. They're within our nature. So prayerfully, this made sense. I know I'm kind of bouncing around a little bit. I know my thoughts probably weren't as coherent because I'm traveling all over the place, but prayerfully this reached you where you were and got you what you needed. We thank you. We appreciate you all. We shall be back on our regular scheduled program as far as our other platforms pretty much tonight. Don't forget, if you're part of SOC University, I'll try to make sure I send everybody the link. I'm going to try. Apparently, there's a new feature that I just found out about, like this Rising, that I guess we can go do a live stream through Patreon. So we don't have to go through YouTube and then put stuff up. We can just go straight to Patreon, which makes life a lot easier, actually. So I'm going to try that tonight. But look it up. Those of you who are part of SOC University, we'll do what we did last week. So we'll have, we'll go like, probably I'll be on a little earlier, maybe 7:45ish this evening. And then we'll go from like 7:45 to 8:15 or so. And then about 8:20, we'll try to start the live stream on Patreon. If that doesn't work, just look on Patreon later. If for some reason that doesn't work, then just go to, look for the Zoom link, but I'll post it. Either way, you guys should be able to see. So the goal is to be on about 8:20 or so. We won't go as long as we went last week, but we'll be on for a little bit for you guys if you have certain questions, comments, concerns, also for me to teach some lessons and things like that as well. So I just found out about that. So those who are on Patreon, we can do a live stream right on Patreon, and we don't have to go through other platforms to go live. I had no clue until today. I think they just started it. So I was today years old when I found that out. So from now on, if I say, hey, I'm going to do something, blah, blah, you should just be able to go on Patreon itself. And if you're not able to get that link, we'll still try to make sure we're doing a little bit of recording on other platforms, because I know for some of you, you've been saying you haven't been able to get the actual links from Patreon for some reason. I don't know what's going on with that. Remind me once again, if you haven't gotten me to send you the links of the teachings and the classes that we've been sending. But we thank you all. We appreciate you. I'm going to go ahead and take my leave here. So we give all honor and praise to the Most High. We give our praise and honor to Him for my wife, the Honorable Amma, who lives a life that's able to be honored. As always, check her out on TikTok, YouTube, her website, and Pinterest at Bloom and Flourish, not A&D, the letter N, Bloom and Flourish. She is a healer, herbalist, chemist, and biologist by degree. Thank you, everybody, for being on. We appreciate you. Thank you, young Solomon, for being up and being on today. And as always, it's been Pastor Kofi, Pastor Servant to Christ, where we are always changing lives one mind at a time, but being a voice of the voices and speaking the unspoken. And until we have the great privilege, opportunity, and responsibility of being in front of you all again, please remember, as always, that you are loved, you're necessary, you're majestic, you're fearfully and wonderfully made, and you, which is all of us working together, will be the reason why people who are in this system no longer have to be of it. Shalom, family. Take care. Don't forget also, too, if you're using the Israelite calendar, tomorrow at 6 p.m. Eastern New York time is Shabbat. All right. Thank you, guys. Appreciate you. Talk to you soon. Take care. Oh, no. I'm sorry. Next week, Tuesday. Anyways, we'll fix that. Y'all have a great day. Sorry.